I gave up the one thing that had never betrayed me. My golden retriever, Max, had been by my side since I was 20. Through breakups, depression, job losses, he was the heartbeat in my silence. But when Kendrick came along, with his charming smile and a diamond ring, I made a choice I never thought I would. I gave Max away, for love. At least, what I thought was love. To my amazing viewers, thank you all so much for supporting these heartfelt, true-to-life stories. If you're already subscribed, turn on your notifications so you never miss a powerful update. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing to help keep these inspiring, dramatic stories coming. Your support means everything. My name is Samantha Green, 32 years old, born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm just a regular American woman who once believed in fairy tales and second chances. I work as a pediatric nurse, and for most of my adult life, it was just me and Max, my dog, my best friend, my comfort after every storm. They say you never forget the day your life changes. Mine wasn't the day I got married. It was the day I handed over Max's leash to my Aunt Carol, trying not to let the tears slip in front of her. "You're doing the right thing, honey," she whispered, gently rubbing my arm. "Love requires sacrifice." I nodded. But my heart screamed otherwise. Kendrick and I had only been dating for 6 months when he popped the question. It was dreamy, romantic, on a rooftop with fairy lights, champagne, and that twinkle in his eyes that made me feel like the luckiest woman alive. I should have said yes without hesitation. But I didn't. I looked at Max, who was sitting beside us that night, and all I could think was, how will I choose? Kendrick had made it clear from the beginning. "I'm allergic to dogs, Sam. I break out, I sneeze, I can't even breathe properly." I wish it weren't true. He was honest. Kind. Patient. So I started to believe maybe love like his was once in a lifetime, and Max, well, Max would be better off with someone else. Right? Jesse was the only one who called me out on it. "You're giving up the only soul who's never left your side. For a guy you've known less than a year?" I hated how logical she sounded. But Kendrick was everything I thought I wanted. He opened doors, brought flowers, remembered my coffee order. He didn't raise his voice. He was successful, secure, and handsome. I felt like a princess around him. But every fairy tale has a price. The apartment we moved into was spotless. White rugs, stainless steel everything, and a no-pet policy that didn't bother him one bit. He made jokes about the fur Max used to leave on my clothes and how now I'd finally grown up. I laughed. But inside, I missed tripping over Max's chew toys, the sound of his paws on the tile, and the way he'd curl up against me during storms. 2 months into the marriage, I started dreaming about Max. Not just seeing him, but hearing his whimpers, feeling his warm breath against my hand. I'd wake up crying, quietly, so Kendrick wouldn't hear. But he noticed I was different. "You okay?" he asked one night, holding me in bed. "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." He kissed my forehead. "You made the right choice. You're my everything now." That should have comforted me. It didn't. One Saturday afternoon, I found an old photo of Max tucked in a book. I stared at it until the image blurred. I was still sitting on the kitchen floor when Kendrick came home and saw me. "You're still thinking about that dog?" His voice was calm, but his eyes weren't. "That dog was my family," I snapped back before I could stop myself. Silence. He left the room. That night, we didn't speak. He didn't hold me. And for the first time I realized I might have traded in a loyal heart for a perfect smile. But the worst part hadn't happened yet. That would come weeks later, when I discovered something in Kendrick's phone that made me question everything. And it all began with a message from a number I didn't recognize. I wasn't snooping. At least, I didn't think I was. Kendrick had left his phone on the kitchen counter that morning, face up, while he was in the shower. I was just grabbing a glass of water. That's when it lit up. "Had fun last night?" Let's do it again soon. No name. Just a number. No emojis. I stared at it for a second too long. My heart didn't race, at first. It slowed. The way it does when something inside you breaks quietly. Kendrick came out of the bathroom humming, towel around his waist, hair damp. Coffee? He asked like everything was normal. Like the floor didn't just shift beneath me. I handed him the phone, careful to keep my face unreadable. You got a message. He glanced at it, then tapped it away like it meant nothing. Spam, he said. I get weird stuff all the time. Spam doesn't say let's do it again soon. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just nodded and walked away. But from that moment, everything changed. I started noticing things. The late meetings. The mysterious cologne that wasn't his usual. The way he guarded his phone like it held national secrets. And still, every time I thought about confronting him, my mind went back to Max. The sacrifice I made. The home I left behind. All for a man who now might not be telling me the truth. That Sunday, I called Aunt Carol. How's Max? I asked, forcing a smile she couldn't see. Oh, baby, she said softly, he still waits by the door at sunset. Like he thinks you're coming back. Tears burned my eyes. Tell him I'm sorry. I hung up and cried in the laundry room. Quietly. Because Kendrick was home. And Kendrick didn't like it when I got too emotional. The next night, after he fell asleep, I opened his phone. I told myself I just needed peace of mind. A way to calm the voices in my head. But I found what I feared. A whole thread. Her name was Marla. Her messages were bold, confident. Like she wasn't afraid of me. Like she knew he wouldn't leave her. And Kendrick? He told her things he hadn't told me in weeks. That she was exciting. That she made him feel alive. I stared at the screen until it blurred. Then I turned it off and climbed back into bed beside him. He reached for me in his sleep. I flinched. For the first time since I married him, I didn't feel loved. I felt replaced. Just like Max. The next morning, I didn't make coffee. That might sound small, maybe even petty, but in our home, coffee was my love language. I'd brew his dark roast with a splash of oat milk, just how he liked it, and leave it steaming on the counter before he stepped out of the shower. But not today. He walked into the kitchen, towel around his waist, hair damp, and paused. No coffee? I looked at him. I really looked at him. The man I once loved without a single doubt. And all I could think of was her. Marla. I didn't feel like it, I said flatly. Kendrick gave a short laugh. Rough night? Something like that. He didn't press. He just made his own cup and left for work without saying goodbye. Like I was a roommate he barely liked. Not a wife who gave up a piece of her heart, her dog, her home, for him. The silence after the door closed felt suffocating. I stayed in bed until noon. I didn't eat. I didn't shower. I just stared at the ceiling, the echo of Marla's texts running laps in my mind. Eventually, I called Aunt Carol again. How bad is it? I asked quietly. Worse, she said. He won't eat much. Keep scratching at the door. I had to move his bed to the porch just so he'd stop whining inside. I closed my eyes. Can I come see him? She paused. Of course, honey. You don't even have to ask. That evening, I drove 2 hours to the little town I swore I'd never move back to. The air smelled different. Lighter. Like it didn't carry secrets here. And then there he was, Max sitting on the porch like a statue, ears up, tail still. The moment he saw me, he broke. Barked. Ran. Jumped up and knocked the wind right out of me. He licked my face like no time had passed. Like I hadn't abandoned him. I cried. harder than I had in months. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, burying my face in his fur. "I chose wrong, boy. I chose wrong." Back inside Aunt Carol's house, after I fed Max and watched him curl up by the fireplace like he belonged there, Aunt Carol poured me tea. "You look tired," she said gently. "Tired in your bones." "I found messages," I said. "He's been cheating." She didn't gasp. Didn't act surprised. She just reached for my hand. "I knew," she said. "I saw it in your eyes last time you visited. You weren't happy. You were surviving." I let the tears fall. I didn't wipe them away this time. I thought giving up Max was the sacrifice love asked for. But real love, it shouldn't ask you to break your own heart. Aunt Carol squeezed my hand. "So, what are you going to do now?" I looked at Max, then at the empty fireplace flickering in the dark. "I'm going home," I said. But not to him. I drove home the next morning, the sun just barely stretching across the sky, golden and quiet. Max rode beside me, head out the window, ears flapping in the breeze like he'd never left. Like everything was back the way it was supposed to be. But it wasn't. I wasn't returning to that house with soft forgiveness or trembling hope. I was returning with clarity. The kind that cuts deep and cleans out everything that no longer serves your soul. When I pulled into the driveway, Kendrick's car was already there. Figures. I let Max out first. His paws hit the sidewalk like he owned it, like it had never been taken from him. And for the first time in months, I followed his lead. I walked through my own front door like I belonged there. Kendrick looked up from the couch, caught off guard. His mouth opened to say something, but Max barked first, a loud, pointed bark, and it was like judgment in canine form. "What the hell?" Kendrick stood up. "You brought that dog back?" I smiled. Not kindly. "His name is Max." And yes. I did. He threw his hands up. "You're being ridiculous." "No," I said, stepping closer. "What's ridiculous is me giving up something that loved me unconditionally, for a man who gave his love away to another woman behind my back." Kendrick blinked. "Don't act surprised. I saw the messages. I know about Marla. And don't bother lying, Kendrick, I know exactly what you did." He ran a hand through his hair, all fake exasperated. "It was nothing serious. Just a dumb mistake." "Good," I said. "Then you won't mind if I leave." "What?" I turned toward the hallway. "I'm packing. Max and I are going to Aunt Carol's until I figure out the next chapter of my life." He followed after me, the panic starting to rise in his voice. "Samantha, come on. You're being dramatic. We can work this out." I stopped in the hallway, suitcase in hand. Max sat beside me like a soldier guarding his general. "You said you couldn't be with me if I kept Max. You made me choose. And now, I'm doing the same." He swallowed hard. "You're choosing a dog over your marriage?" "No," I said slowly. "I'm choosing myself over betrayal." "And Max?" "He just happens to be the only one in this house who never stopped loving me." I didn't look back as I walked out. I didn't need to. There were no more words worth saying. No more tears worth crying. Just the sound of Max's paws on the floor beside me and the weight of freedom blooming in my chest like spring. For the first time in forever, I didn't feel second place in my own life. I felt strong. I felt sure. And I felt ready for whatever came next. It's funny how life has a way of rebuilding itself after it's been burned to the ground. That first week at Aunt Carol's was quiet. Peaceful. The kind of silence that didn't feel heavy or cold, but warm, like a soft blanket after a long storm. Max settled in right away, curling up at the foot of my bed like he used to. Every morning, he'd greet me with that same goofy smile and gentle tail wag. No judgment. No resentment. Just love. I needed that more than I even realized. Aunt Carol, bless her heart, didn't ask many questions. She just handed me a cup of tea the night I arrived and said, "Whatever you left behind wasn't meant to stay with you. What's ahead will be better. You'll see." I clung to those words. Over the next few weeks, I started working remotely for a small publishing company. Nothing fancy, but it gave me purpose. Gave me structure. Max kept me company at my desk every day, snoozing or nudging my hand when he sensed I needed a break. It was during one of our long afternoon walks in the park that I met Lucas. He was sitting on a bench with a book in one hand and a coffee in the other, his golden retriever dozing at his feet. Max, always the social butterfly, pulled me right toward them, tail wagging like he'd just spotted an old friend. Lucas looked up and smiled. "Well, looks like our dogs decided we should meet." I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in what felt like ages. Lucas wasn't like Kendrick. He didn't talk over me or roll his eyes when I brought up little things that mattered to me. He listened. He asked questions. He remembered details. And the way he talked to his dog, Daisy, melted something in me I didn't know was still frozen. We started seeing each other for walks. Then coffee. Then dinner. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't complicated. It was real. One night, while we sat on his porch watching our dogs play in the yard, he turned to me and said, "You don't talk much about what happened before we met. And that's okay. But whatever it was, I just want you to know, whoever couldn't see your worth, they didn't deserve you." I blinked back tears. Not because I was sad, but because someone finally said exactly what I needed to hear. Months passed. Kendrick tried calling. He sent long emails. Apologies. Promises. Regrets. I read the first one and deleted the rest. Sometimes closure doesn't come in the form of a conversation or a neat ending. Sometimes it comes when you look at where you are and realize you don't miss where you've been. I didn't hate him. But I didn't love him anymore either. That part of my life was over. And that was okay. A year later, I bought a small home not far from Aunt Carol's. A place with a fenced yard, lots of windows, and a sunroom Max claimed as his own. Lucas came by often. Sometimes just for coffee. Sometimes for more. We weren't rushing it. We didn't need to. Because I finally understood something I hadn't before. Love doesn't demand you give up the things, or beings, you love. Love makes room for them. Love welcomes them in. Max taught me that. Final thoughts. To everyone who's ever felt second best, unimportant, or forgotten in love, please know this. You are not too much. You are not too emotional. You are not asking too much when you ask for loyalty, respect, and compassion. Sometimes, the love we truly need doesn't look like a romantic partner. Sometimes, it has 4 legs, a wet nose, and a tail that wags even when we're broken. That love saved me. And because of it, I learned to love myself again. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more dramatic, inspiring life stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. And drop a comment below if you've ever had to choose between someone and something you love, and found your strength in the aftermath.